Hey guys, welcome to my first Honkai Star Rail video. As I'm sure you're no doubt aware of, Honkai Star Rail has officially been released globally, and I've had my eye on it for a good while since I've become a Hoyoverse fan. Some of you may remember my community post foreshadowing Star Rail content in the near future. Don't worry to all my Genshin viewers, there will still be Genshin content as usual, but I was looking for opportunities to branch out, and finally there is one. Speaking of Genshin viewers, I thought it would be appropriate to make my first video dedicated to you guys. For today, I'll be giving you an introduction to Honkai Star Rail's gameplay by highlighting similarities between it and Genshin as a sort of encouragement for you to try it out. Seeing as both titles are made by the same developer, Star Rail will look very familiar in a lot of aspects even if you never played the closed betas. As stated earlier, we're going to be spending this video detailing all the similarities between Genshin and Star Rail, and in a later video, I'll be going more in depth on Star Rail's gameplay itself. To start, you'll be happy to know that despite the game revolving around turn-based RPG-style encounters, much of the game's controls and user interface are almost identical to Genshin. Unlike Genshin, which is an open-world action RPG with a ton of overworld travel, Star Rail's gameplay entails navigating through dungeons and battling your way through various enemies to complete objectives. As such, there's no terrain-centric exploration, so no jumping or gliding in this game. In exchange, there's no stamina bar, meaning you can sprint as much as you want. Provided you kept the default controls, at least for PC, all hotkeys are essentially the same. For example, C opens up the character menu, B opens up your inventory, F3 will bring you to the gacha banners, Escape opens up the menu, M opens the map, right click is the default sprint key, F is the interaction key, J opens your quest tab, so on and so forth. So if you play Genshin on PC, it's almost like you're playing the same game. And I'd imagine that's also the case for console players. Speaking of systems, the central mechanics in Honkai Star Rail echo Genshin systems. Taking a brief look at the character interface, the layout is quite similar. Looking at the stats page, you have properties like HP, attack, defense, crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, elemental damage, elemental resistance, etc. There are some new parameters, but we'll get into that in the beginner's guide that should be out in a couple of days. The character's light cone is their weapon of choice and has a near identical enhancement and refinement system to boot, though in this game, weapon refinement is referred to as superimpose. Otherwise, take everything you know about weapons in Genshin and apply it here. You need XP materials to level it up, and then materials to ascend the weapon. Traces are this game's talents. It's a bit more multilateral than Genshin, but the premise is the same. You have an array of skills ranging from combat arts to passive stat bonuses that can be upgraded through talent materials as per usual. Eidolons are this game's constellation system. Yes, constellations are in Star Rail as well, for better or worse. There are 6 of them per character, and as usual, you can unlock Eidolons by obtaining further copies of a character through pulls or any potential freebies the game plans on giving us. For all intents and purposes, light cones, traces, and Eidolons are exactly the same as weapons, talents, and constellations. On a side note, as a game designer myself, I actually appreciate similarities between games, especially if they're made by the same creator. It helps alleviate the new player experience for those who played one or the other. Granted, having brand new systems can be refreshing, but at the same time, familiarity can prevent user experiences, especially in the beginning, from becoming too overcomplicated. On the subject of familiarity, Honkai Star Rail has an element system just like Genshin. There are 7 elements in this game: physical, fire, ice, lightning, wind, quantum, and imaginary. Fun fact, for all the Eula mains out there, the physical element in this game is an actual element with actual support, interactions, and whatnot. Now, the way elements work in this game is a bit different than in Genshin. In Genshin, every element has a corresponding weakness to it. For example, Pyro is usually weak to Hydro, Hydro is usually weak to Cryo, Cryo is weak to Pyro, or Electro, Electro is weak to Pyro, etc. Unlike traditional RPGs, enemies don't take additional damage when struck by attacks of an element they're weak against like in Genshin. Every enemy in this game has a toughness bar that can inflict weakness break when reducing it to 0, causing them to take additional damage from elemental attacks based on the one that reduces toughness. Once again, I'll be going more in depth on Honkai's actual systems in the Star Rail Beginner's Guide later, but just wanted to let you know that Honkai Star Rail also gives each character an element. Continuing on with combat, rather than being weapon-based, units are divided into a class system known as paths. There are 7 in the game: Destruction, aka General DPS, Hunt, which primarily focuses on single target damage, Erudition, which focuses on multi-target, Harmony, which is about supporting, primarily offensive and utility, Nihility, which is for debuffing support, Preservation, which is for defensive support and tanking, and then Abundance, which is your healer class. So despite there not being a formal weapon system, the classification of light cones resembles weapons in Genshin. Parties are constructed in groups of 4, and there's still heavy emphasis placed on proper team building. Even though Star Rail is turn-based, there's still a very familiar experience of putting units and classes together to achieve an overall goal, just like how you would pair up units together for team compositions like Taser, Double Hydro, etc. I'd wager the team building in this game will be of greater importance just from the battles I've encountered so far. While we're on interface related matters, you'll be pleased to know the game's inventory system is also the same. You have your upgrade materials, light cones, relics, which are this game's rendition of artifacts, other materials, which would encompass your miscellaneous stuff, consumables, which house your healing and buffing items, quest-related items, and finally valuables, which are the same as ancillary items in Genshin. If you thought that was all, there's still a lot more. Paimon's Bargains is also here in Star Rail called Starlight Exchange. Interestingly though, Star Rail allows you to buy 5-star light cones from the exchange, which honestly they should do for Genshin. The currencies used for the exchange are Undying Starlight and Undying Embers, just like the Stardust and Star Glitter in Genshin. The Embers exchange should look familiar to you as well. It's the Stardust exchange in a nutshell. Contract Shop holds all your bundle deals. I'm not particularly sure what Oniric Pouch is, as it's currently empty at the time of this recording, but it says on the bottom left-hand corner to play in moderation and spend rationally, so there might be something related to gambling. Star Rail's gacha system has the same conversions as Genshin. 160 Stellar Jades equals 1 pull, so 1600 for 10. The stuff you can acquire are light cones and units as per usual. Additional characters will yield Embers, Starlight, and Eidolons. I'm gonna assume they also plan to implement this on live release, but over in the additional rewards tab, you can actually select a 5-star character of your choice after pulling 300 times. 300 pulls is a lot, mind you, but it's a nice gesture from them, especially since a few of these units are top tier in the meta as we know it. Nowhere does it indicate the rates for pulls, though I imagine they'll make that public information on live release. We got a few more systems to go over before we end things off. Assignments are this game's expeditions. Conveniently, you can access this menu anywhere you want just by pressing the home menu. It costs 2 units per assignment to dispatch, and you can have up to 4 at a time. They were nice enough to separate character materials from XP, credits, and synthesis. Synthesis being crafting materials. Also, just like in Genshin, certain units can give you more drops indicated by a yellow up arrow on their icon, which is always a nice bonus. The synthesis menu is also remotely accessible, thank the Lord. It's so annoying having to go to a workbench in a town every time I want to craft in Genshin. Star Rail condenses item crafting and cooking in one, letting you craft healing items on the go, as well as upgrade and exchange materials. Last but not least, the actual combat. Star Rail is a turn-based RPG, but there are still a few things you'll notice that are similar to Genshin. Every character has a normal attack, which is their Q. By using the normal attack, you generate a skill point which is consumed by using their E. So you can think of their E as this game's elemental skill, only you need skill points to use it. Star Rail characters have elemental bursts as well, which are simply called ultimates. Ultimates cost a certain amount of energy to activate, which you accrue through normal attacks, skills, defeating enemies, certain effects from characters, or light cones, etc. Just like how you would build up energy in Genshin. Now in Genshin, whenever you use your ultimate, you get invincibility frames. This game doesn't have iframes per se because it's turn-based, but you can use a character's ultimate even when it's not their turn, and it doesn't cost an action to do so, meaning you can use the character's ultimate, then commence with an additional action afterwards. It's a very intuitive system that you'll get the hang of easily just by using the fundamentals you picked up from Genshin. Overall, Honkai Star Rail and Genshin have a ton of identical mechanics and systems, making the former really simple to get into if you played the latter, and this should apply to most of my viewers since you played or are still playing Genshin. Hopefully this video gave those of you who were on the fence about trying it out the push you needed to give it a go. Really excited for this to be out, and I plan to make many more videos about it in the coming days. Oh, actually, one more thing. Your Star Rail account information is the same as your Genshin account since it's Hoyoverse, so you don't have to make a brand new account. The login details are exactly the same as if you were logging into Genshin. If this video was helpful to you, it would be awesome if you could leave a like and subscribe. Consider following me on Twitter at @varsverum, joining my Discord server, and be sure to stay tuned for my beginner's guide on Honkai Star Rail, which should be out in a few days. Thank you all so much for watching, and thanks once again to Hoyoverse for bringing me on board. Gonna be making tons of content for this game, so I'm gonna call it for now and get straight to work on the next one. Take care everyone, and one more time, a big welcome to Honkai Star Rail.